So, hello, good evening to everyone. Yeah, the last I checked, I'm not Venerable Thupten Children. And I know many people have come with a very sincere heart, really hoping to connect with her before she goes back to the US. So we're really very sorry, but such is the nature of having an impermanent body subject to aging, sickness, and death. And we were just in India with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He gave 2 weeks of teachings, and there are tens of thousands of people, and everybody gets the cold at some point. So I got the cold first, and then I gave the gift of the cold to Venerable Children, and now I have received the gift of doing this talk in her place. Yeah. So anyhow, it's really quite wonderful to be with all of you this new year. Yeah. What I thought I'd do today was to just start with guiding analytical meditation. Right, we'll do some breathing meditation to settle the mind, and then I'll guide you on some pointers to reflect on before I get into the content of the talk. Yeah? Does that sound like a good plan? And then after that, we'll do some questions and hopefully maybe answers, attempts at answers, or a discussion of some kind. Yeah? Okay, great. So I thought to start the talk with this guided meditation on the kindness of others, because on a very good day when I do this meditation, I genuinely feel like, wow, I'm so grateful to everybody. I want so much to give. I want to give back. I'll, repay the kindness in some way, right? Like, I don't know about you, but you just have a very natural feeling of wanting to return what you have received. Yeah? And then I get off the cushion, and I go somewhere, and I notice that someone is sitting in my seat, or they've taken something that I want, and immediately it's like, hey, at the Abbey we have like a pantry area where all the snacks go, and that's where all the chocolate goes, and immediately, every day you go and check, like, is there still chocolate? And I'll always remember going to the Tupperware ones and like, where's the chocolate? After meditation, sitting, thinking about attachment or generosity, I went to the Tupperware and I was like, yeah, where's the chocolate? And I spent at least 5 minutes, I think, just looking through all the Tupperwares and then getting very annoyed, like, you see, all these guests and nuns, they're just taking the chocolate away. It's mine. It took me a while to see, okay, you just did all this meditation on the kindness of others and generosity and all the good qualities you want. And when the chocolate runs out, that's actually the title of a book by Lama Yeshe. Yeah, when the chocolate runs out, that's the test of our practice. So I wanted to start that way because I think, we all naturally have this inclination to give and return the kindness of others. But what gets in the way? Yeah? Maybe today's talk, from my side anyway, should be titled, How Not to Give. Or I'll tell you about all the mistakes I've made trying to practice generosity, along the way. So I thought I'd start by talking about the kinds of wrong attitudes that come up when we're giving. Yeah, because giving is really a state of mind. Yeah, that's why we're meditating to cultivate this virtuous state of mind. And as we know, we are samsaric sentient beings, right? So our afflictions get in the way and they come up. And from my side, I think one of the biggest difficulties I have when giving is that I expect something in return. Do you? Yeah, at least you should say thank you, right? Like, I've put myself out there, I've made some effort, like some recognition wouldn't hurt, that I'm helping you. And when it doesn't come, right, then immediately we regret giving. Like, why did I even try? Why did I even bother? These people don't appreciate me. So that's one, right? All the expectations we have when we're giving. And also, I think often, one thing I really struggled with, especially when I was volunteering, was expecting a good reputation. Yeah, that was one thing I really had to watch for. I started volunteering, in Singapore we have the CIP program, right? The Community Involvement Program, and it was just something you did in school. But I started to really enjoy volunteering. And after a while, I noticed I was getting quite proud. Yeah, like, oh, I volunteer with so-and-so organization. Yeah, oh, they have volunteer appreciation dinner. Hey, so I had to really like watch out, like, what's going on there? Yeah, do we want to be recognized again? Yeah, to be seen as a good person. Really tricky, yeah, that one. Like, you can appear like a really virtuous, good person, but nobody knows what's actually happening in our own heart, right? Yeah, so that's another attitude that gets in the way when we're wanting the world to see us a certain way. Now, another attitude that gets in the way when we're giving, I think, is counting or comparing what we get in return. Yeah, I don't know if my parents are here, but I always remember during Chinese New Year, one of my jobs was to keep track of what so-and-so auntie has given. Right, it's coming up like, this family gave us how much, keep track. We got to make sure we give back the same amount, or not less, not more. And it was just quite interesting as a child to be involved in that. Yeah, immediately it's about, what are people giving me, what do I give back? And I think the same happens with Christmas too, right? Oh, the family gave us a bigger gift, we better give something just as big. So, all this counting and comparing, and it's interesting to see what that does to the mind. Yeah, it's not free anymore. Yeah, you're there trying to calculate some kind of benefit that we can get or in return. And the fourth kind of attitude that gets in the way is, even for us as Buddhist practitioners, expecting a reward in the next life. Yeah, I mean, already we're thinking of the next life, so that's helpful, but we're hoping, if I give a lot now to the temple, maybe I will be very wealthy next time, right? Just thinking of getting some kind of reward again. So, I guess maybe the word wrong is not always the best word here. It's not like right giving, wrong giving, but I would say these are ways of giving that just limit the mind, yeah? The mind is capable of so much more. When we're just totally focused on, I want something in return. I want to look good. I want to make sure that we're on par, or I'm better, or I want to make sure that my next life is better. Again, it revolves all around me, right? And that's how the virtue is going to ripen as well. Yeah, in a very short-term kind of way. Right. So I can't explain the intricacies of karma, but I do have faith that being generous, right, when our mind is generous, that opens the path for us to receive in return. Yeah, but how far we give, how vast our motivation is going to affect what happens when the karma ripens as the result. Yeah. So we give with a very mundane worldly motivation, then it ripens that way, the merit's finished. Yeah. But when we give with a really vast motivation, like wanting to become fully awakened, or for liberation, to be able to benefit all beings, yeah, then I think something quite different is happening. Yeah, the merit multiplies millions and millions of times. So when I think of that, I think when we have a vast motivation, that's how we protect our practice of generosity. Yeah. I guess, as a baby Buddhist, I really didn't get that. I really thought that generosity was just, very literal. Who needs, I give, right? Like that. It took a while for me to understand, it's actually about a state of mind. It's a motivation. It's the motivation, not the amount or the thing that you give, that's really the most important. And I'll just turn to a very simple example that Venerable Children always gives that touched my heart when I heard it. She often talks about how if there's a big charitable project, right, sometimes people want to give so that they'll be recognized, right? They'll name the hall after me, yeah, the Tupten Damcho prayer hall. Yeah, so I'm gonna come out and give $1 million or 100,000, hoping for my name to appear there. And that's the person that we recognize, right, in society. Wow, philanthropist, great. But if you give with a motivation like that, it comes back to this self-serving attitude, right? And nobody knows, yeah? We can't read that person's mind, at least I can't. Yeah. But he's recognized, who he or she is recognized in society. Everybody says, oh, this is a good, generous person. But at the end of the day, they were just doing it for their own glory. Yeah, whereas when someone gives $10, $20, whatever they can with a good heart, that really makes a difference in their mind, yeah, and has like an incredible benefit, I think, in the very long run. Yeah. I was thinking about how, when we consecrated the Abbey, the Chenrezig Hall at the Abbey, we built this big new guest building some time ago, about 1-2 years ago, and there was a woman who traveled across the US to come to attend the consecration. And when we invited people to just share their thoughts on why they were there and how they felt, she stood up and then she told us about how, she really wasn't making very much. She had a disability, so I think she was on some disability assistance. But because she had benefited a lot from the teachings, she wanted to give something back. So she made a commitment to give $10 every month. And that was a really big deal for her. She wasn't making very much. Yeah, she was working from home, really scrimping and saving to give this $10 every month. And then eventually she saved enough too to come all the way to the Abbey to see the fruit of what she was giving to. And we were just so touched, by her sincerity. It really is not about the amount. And I think too she was touched because she could see that every month giving those $10, she was contributing to building a place where many, many people come to do their Dharma practice, to train their mind, to benefit. Yeah, so that $10 given with a sincere motivation has this incredible ripple effect, right? Depending on what you're supporting and what you're giving to. Yeah, so both sides. So when we talk about far-reaching generosity, sometimes we hear the way the term is translated as the 6 perfections or the 6 far-reaching attitudes. And these are really powerful practices we can do to strengthen our mind if we hope to become fully awakened Buddhas. Yeah, the Buddha taught these 6 far-reaching practices that we can engage in to train the mind to develop limitlessly, to benefit all beings. And the first one he taught was the attitude of far-reaching generosity. And again, I used to wonder, what's the difference between regular generosity and far-reaching generosity? Is it just about, again, my baby Buddhist mind, give lah then, right? And again, it comes back to our motivation that we give with the intention of becoming fully awakened, so it's done with bodhicitta. And if we can, to keep in mind the wisdom realizing emptiness when we give. Yeah, so I'll get to that later. But just to remember that, this opportunity to give arises due to causes and conditions. Yeah, it's a dependent arising. I'm not a giver from my own side. You are not a recipient from your side. This is not a gift from its own side, right? I mean, right now it's sitting here, it's a clock. Right? If it belonged to me and I gave it to someone as an offering with a sincere heart, then it becomes a gift, right? But it's not a gift from its own side, right? So even this opportunity to give is an incredible dependent arising. I mean, we often don't think about that, right? Sometimes when asked to give, it's like, no, I won't have it later, yeah? I mean, just recently in India, one day after lunch, we had some leftover scraps of food. And then Venerable said, oh, don't throw that away. Go out and find a stray dog. See if you can feed these scraps to a dog. So, opportunity to give, right? So I was in a train station and who would know, in India, there are always stray dogs everywhere. But on this one occasion where I have some food, I walk the entire station, I go out of the station, make a round, no dogs. I wanted so much to give this away, no opportunity. In fact, I found a man with a very nice, well-groomed dog, and I said, "Can I give some food?" And he looked at me like I was crazy. Like, you want to give these scraps to my beautiful dog? You know? I said, okay. Yeah, so when things like that happen, it's like, it makes me think, wow, actually the opportunity to give is rare. Yeah? So it's when it arises and there's the opportunity, how wonderful, rejoice, yeah? Step forward and give. It happened too that when I was first learning about the 6 far-reaching practices, our homework that the nun who was teaching the class gave us was to practice one act of kindness every day. Yeah, just one. Even that was sometimes a challenge, to give something every day. Sometimes I would try and give things to people and they're like, no, don't want. I'm like, okay. Sometimes people get suspicious or maybe I wasn't very friendly at the time, so you give, they're like, what do you want from me? Yeah, so just even that opportunity to give on a daily basis was not as easy as I had expected. Yeah, so that might be something you want to check out in your daily life. Yeah, but I guess if you make offerings on the altar every day, then that's one way to wake up with a good motivation to offer something that you love, that you are like totally attached to or you dream about, to just offer it up. See what it does for your mind. Yeah. So that brings me to the topic of the types of giving that we can engage in. And again, it's about a material object, but really it's a practice for training the mind. Yeah. So that's why we start sometimes, you can start with anything really. I mean, I remember the story of the Buddha teaching a woman who was very miserly. She said she had so much difficulty giving anything away. So the Buddha, with his skillful means, told her, okay, you practice giving 1 carrot from your right hand to your left hand. Okay, then you give the carrot from your left hand to your right hand. Start there. Yeah, I thought, wow, incredible. Just for that state of mind to begin, yeah. Okay, I can let go of it and put it here. I can let go of it and put it here. Yeah, so there's small ways I think we can start with things that we have a lot of clinging and grasping to. Practice is not about like pushing yourself off the deep end, like tomorrow I'm going to give my kidney away or something. It's really about what our mind is ready for and making those baby steps. Yeah, because when you read the Bodhisattva practices, right, when they talk about giving materially, it's like, oh, give your body. Honestly, I'm like, I don't know about my kidneys. Yeah, so those are really high-level practices for beings who see, okay, this is really not me and mine. I'm ready to offer that up. Yeah, but just visualizing, so simple practices like that, right hand to left hand to right hand. One practice that we do in our daily practice is offering a mandala. And for some of us, so you're offering up everything beautiful that you cherish in the world and giving it up to the Buddhas, saying, hey, please take care of what I care about. Here it is for you, and may I receive teachings and wisdom in return. So just that action, and sometimes it's really interesting to see what you have difficulty putting in your mandala. You can put specific people, or sometimes I have a lot of attachment to family members, for instance, so I'll think about them and like, okay, just, the Buddha is just a much better teacher than I am. Yeah, let's just offer them up into the Buddha's care. Yeah. So yeah, those are ways that we can practice. Yeah, because I think that's the challenge of generosity, right? And I wonder if that's why the Buddha taught that as one of the first practices too, because it makes our attachment appear like this. Right? Immediately, all your self-grasping comes up, me, mine, cannot let go. I was thinking about how at His Holiness's teachings, it was really quite funny. There was, you go very early to set your seat. Yeah, this is like this major project that I think the Singaporeans who go are very experienced in. It involves queuing, and you have to go there and put a blanket down, and you have to write your name, and you have to guard your seat for 2 hours, because now it used to be a piece of floor, right? You put the blanket and you write your name, my seat. Okay, nobody can come and take it away. And everyone's like strategizing where to put their seat. So this happens every year. Before these teachings on how to transform your mind and be generous, And I'm also guilty of being the kiasu Singaporean nun trying to get the best seat. Okay, so you guard your seat. And this year at the teachings on the last day, there's always a long life puja for His Holiness, and suddenly all the seats change. Yeah, you just come early and sit in the temple. All these people who weren't around will take your seat. Yeah, so Venerable and I arrive, okay, someone has taken our seat, and then we're like, okay, we found another seat and sat there. And so we were sitting there waiting for the puja to begin. And then this lady who was in the dignitary section, yeah, had the dignitary pass, went up to a mother with 2 young children and said, "This is my seat." And then the mother and the 2 children are like, I mean, does it have your name on it? You know? And she just stood there and said, "This is my seat, this is my seat. I've been sitting here for a week, this is my seat, this is my seat." And Venerable children and I just sat there like, really? I mean, we're here with all the best of intentions to try and be compassionate and loving, but wow, you know, you see the force of your self-grasping, you know, when it comes up, it just overwhelms the whole mind, right? This is her dignitary seat. You are not a dignitary, you cannot sit there. And she went on for a while. And from my side, I was like, let's not get involved. From Venerable's side, very compassionate, she gets up, takes her cushion and gives it to the woman. She says, "Would you like to sit here?" In front of that lady and the 2 kids. Yeah? She gave them this cushion that she was sitting on. That's why she's Venerable children. I'm like, please don't involve me in this conflict. These people, not yet the bodhicitta. Like, okay, please sit. So the lady sat there, you know, very pleased with herself that now she was in front of them. And throughout the whole teaching too, she was like giving dagger stares to the small children. I mean, she's like 9 years old, right? Like, these people who stole my seat. Yeah, or she would try and squeeze in and try and look at, have a better view of His Holiness. Wow. So, you know, that was a really good teaching, really, I think, you know, when we see things like that happen, not to get judgmental, but to see, wow, I have exactly the same kind of silly mind. Yeah, that once it gets overwhelmed by this idea of that's mine and I'm entitled and I must have it, all the teachings go out the window. Yeah, even when you're this close to seeing His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And what else can we do but have compassion, right? For ourselves and others when they're in that situation. You can really see we're not, you know, we have some wisdom, but the moment the affliction arises, it just takes over. Yeah? And 2, over something that's merely labeled. I think in seats in a temple, you can see really, you just put a sticker with your name on it, right? And then for that moment, it is your seat. But it's not like you can carry it with you outside. Yeah, what makes it your seat from its own side? Yeah. And to think about too, how that functions with so many other things in our lives. Venerable is giving this example of how, you know, the moment you put the label, my child, yeah, mine, everything changes. The neighbor's son failed a spelling test. Who cares? My son failed the spelling test. Oh, he's never going to get into Harvard. He's going to fail. He's never going to get a job. You know, just from that label, mine. Right. So I think when we practice generosity, it just really helps us to see where our attachments are. Yeah. And again, you know, different people will have attachments to different things. Yeah. Like, so for some people, giving material things is easy, right? But like, ask them to spend a bit of time with you, and they're like, no, don't have time. Right. So again, it's just a good. These are, I think, when the teachings become a good mirror for us to see where we get stuck and how we can work on it. And as I mentioned, that one very powerful way to do that is to keep visualizing giving something away, offering it to the Buddhas, you know, giving everything beautiful in our life away. Yeah. I think that's just a much happier state of mind instead of, you know, when something good happens to us, we're like, yes, mine. I don't want to share. Yeah, but to have a heart that says, oh, you know, something good happened. How wonderful. Let's pay it forward. Let's give it away to others. Yeah. So that's giving materially, yeah, where we can give, you know, money, objects, things we care about, things we know people need, right? Whether it is to the 3 jewels, and we talk about 2 very powerful fields of giving, right? One is to the Triple Gem, to support the practice of spiritual practitioners, to create centers and places where people can come and transform their mind. So that's a kind of giving that really goes a long way, yeah. And also to give to those in need, yeah, people who actually don't have resources and are physically in need. Yeah. The second kind of giving is giving fearlessness. Yeah, and often they talk about protecting people in dangerous situations, or accompanying travelers, offering a home to people who are in a foreign country, freeing beings that are trapped. And I guess always when I heard this teaching, I thought, I don't know, it seems kind of removed from my daily life, yeah, like giving fearlessness to people. But I think for me it turned when it started with insects. For instance, sometimes when you're drinking water, you see, oh my goodness, there's a little ant that's drowning in there. One very small thing we can do is just, rescue that little animal and put it on a table, right? Or some bee is stuck in the room. Honestly, like these insects are freaking out, right? I used to be really afraid of like insects. Yeah, but once you move to a place like Sravasti Abbey, they're everywhere. Yeah, no choice. Mother sentient beings everywhere around you. And to say, actually, I think they're experiencing more fear than I am. Yeah, that's why they're like banging against the window, desperate to get out. Right? So what a gift it is if I can stay calm and find a way to bring this animal outside. Yeah, so we can give fearlessness to all kinds of little beings. Yeah, the cockroach is this size, right? But we are this size. Yeah, I mean, I know rationally like that, but sometimes you see like, and to remember, okay, kind mother sentient being, let's find a way to take care of you. Yeah. And I think too, when we work with our mind, when we really work with our afflictions, that's another way that we give fearlessness to the people around us. Yeah. When we find ways to work with our anger, right? I mean, if you live with an angry person, with some angry person from, someone who maybe expresses their anger in fierce or violent ways, tremendous fear in the family, correct? Yeah. I always remember, this is something I'm very, very grateful to my dad for, because I don't know if he's here and I hope he's okay with me telling this personal story. But so what I know of my grandfather before I was born, the stories I hear about him was that he was very, very fierce. He had a primary 2 education, he was a carpenter, and according to all the family members, he'll open his mouth and expletives come out. Yeah, after a long day at work, he just wants to have a beer, watch wrestling, and everybody in the family was just terrified of him. Yeah, people just didn't feel comfortable sitting with him. You've come back from school, and then you just sit around an angry person. That's not what you want to be around, right? And growing up like that, in the West, they always say, oh, you grow up a certain way. Western psychology always has these theories, I guess, that you're habituated a certain way in your family environment, and then you just repeat the same behavior. Yeah. But I think with my dad, he made a very clear determination not to repeat such behavior. He decided that he was not going to speak in that way to his children. He was not going to lose his temper. And I think growing up, I've seen him lose his temper twice. Yeah. I mean, of course he gets angry. There are other ways of expressing your anger, but he was very, very mindful of that because he had lived in an environment that was quite, difficult when he was younger. And based on his decision, I'm not going to cause fear to my children. I'm not going to shout at them. I'm going to find ways to communicate with kindness. It made a tremendous difference, obviously, for my own life, yeah, for the whole family. And you could see too, it set an example for his siblings to see, wow, this is possible. There's another way of being a parent. Yeah. So I think when we make a conscious decision to work with our afflictions in all these ways, we have a tremendous impact on all the people we care about. I think another way of giving fearlessness too is taking precepts. Yeah, when we take precepts not to kill, for instance. Like when I'm around someone who like all the animals at the Abbey, for instance, we have all these turkeys. You don't know how many turkeys we have in winter. We live in a part of the world where hunting is the norm. Yeah, down the road, everybody has a gun. Yeah, people go during hunting season. We have people driving through the area. They ask us if they can come hunt. So we spend a lot of time also putting up no hunting signs. But just because all of us at the Abbey have taken a precept not to kill, right, we've decided we're committing our lives to this, we don't believe in killing, all the animals feel safe. Right, so all these deer come, bears come, you know. Hey, I know, it doesn't sound that pleasant, right? I personally have not seen a bear, but on many occasions, people who've done walks, they see a bear and, you know, turn around and walk the other way. We have moose. Yeah, I don't know, I remember one day I was just walking down the road, doing all my mantras, walking down the road, and suddenly I could hear gunshots ringing out there. It's just such an unpleasant sound, you know, pa, 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 pa. And there was a deer on the hill, and the deer just stood there, like looking at me for a long time. And I just felt so sad. You know, I couldn't figure out how to tell the deer, like, I'm not gonna harm you, I'm safe. I'm so sorry for everything people are doing to cause you fear. Yeah. So of course, you know, send mantra, chant Om Mani Padme Hum for all these animals. Yeah. So yeah, that's just from taking one precept. Yeah, Venerable often asks us to think, can you imagine if the whole world kept the precept not to kill for one day? I think maybe nothing to report in the news. Yeah. One day, just one day, everyone makes a clear decision, I will not kill. You know, what kind of impact that would have? Yeah, and often when I reflect on the precepts, we reflect and restore our precepts every 2 weeks. You know, that's one way you can think about it. Like, wow, you know, just from taking these precepts, what impact has it had on my life? What impact would it have if everybody kept these precepts? Yeah, likewise, not to steal, right? You feel safe, your belongings in a monastery, I mean, hopefully, no one's gonna come and take them, right? You don't have to spend all your time worrying about what you have. You know that someone who's taken a precept not to lie is really going to try and uphold the truth, hopefully. You can trust what they say. That they're not going to be trying to steal your spouse or making eyes at your boyfriend, right? You can relax around that. Yeah. I think that's, I don't think you actually want to hear about this, but I'll just briefly say that has been one of the great benefits of celibacy. I mean, it just takes all that out of the picture, yeah? When I interact with people, it's not like, oh, can I give my number? Does he want my number? Like, you know, we don't have to worry about any of this nonsense. It's like, I can interact with you as a fellow human being. You want to be happy, you don't want to suffer. I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer. That's great, right? Let's find a way to connect, as opposed to like, does he think my hair is nice? I don't know. All the time and effort that goes into that. Yeah, is he going to like my friend and not me? And yeah, so much energy goes into that, right? Yeah, and of course the fifth precept, not to take intoxicants. Yeah, again, I mean, I don't know, I guess we don't have a heavy drinking culture in Singapore. We tax liquor, so maybe that's a good thing. I studied in the US for a while, and I will say that intoxication, people do some really stupid things. I have done some really, really stupid things under the influence of intoxicants. Yeah, all your good sense just goes out the window, right? The Buddha taught that this is not a naturally negative action, but we keep this precept to guard the rest. Yeah, the moment you are intoxicated, then who knows, you might kill someone out of anger or sleep around or start talking all kinds of nonsense. I think that's the usual one. Yeah, you're drunk and you start telling all kinds of stories that don't actually make sense. Yeah. So, yeah, through our ethical conduct, that's a gift, I think, to all the beings around us. You can't? Yeah. And the third way of giving is giving the Dharma. Yeah, and really I think here, it doesn't mean going out and preaching on the street corner, that much we know, but it's just really about sharing our practice with other people. That's the way I see it. It's about how I'm integrating it in my life and how I'm interacting with others. Because before I can go and tell people, you know, you should really work with your anger, I gotta work with my own first, right? Yeah, so, you know, very often people often ask Venerable, like, my family member has this problem, how can I bring the Dharma into their life, right? But really, I think the best way to do it is through our own practice. I will say that that's how the Dharma changed my life and my relationships. I'll always remember how in one of the first lessons that I went for in Dharma class, I was in my early 20s and all about like saving the world. I'm gonna do good, I'm gonna go out there and change the world and change people. And then my Dharma teacher said to me, okay, you want to go out and make a difference and have peace in the world and all that, but do you have peace in your own heart? Can you even create peace in your own household? What about peace in 1 km of where you live? Is that even happening? And I was like, wow. It made a huge impact on me because at the time I was arguing with my mother every day. I had just come back from university and I was like, don't run my life. I couldn't get out the door without saying some smart comment, arguing, talking back, just to get the last word. You're laughing because either you have done it or your children are doing it. And to say, if I really want to practice, I need to stop doing that, right? It starts with peace in my heart and peace with my mom. So can I just let go of that? Can I give her the gift of winning this argument? Yes. And I stopped arguing with her. And I think too, then she was like, oh, okay, something's happening, right? Oh, you're going to this Dharma class. Okay, maybe this is something beneficial after all. Venerable often tells the young people who come to the Abbey, oh, you want your parents to be interested in the Dharma? First thing you do when you go home, clean the toilet. Then the parents will be like, huh? You went to a retreat and now you're cleaning the toilet? Very good, very good. I want to know what you're learning. So really, I think it's entirely about our own practice. The ways that we share the Dharma. And of course, if people are interested, we share what we know. And the last point I wanted to touch on before opening up to some questions is how this practice of generosity has to be conjoined with the other 6 far-reaching practices. Again, that's not something I had thought a lot about. And as I learned more about these 6 far-reaching practices, I realized, it totally makes sense. So what are the 6? So we practice generosity. We can give things materially. We can give fearlessness to others. We can give the Dharma. But we want to practice this together with ethical conduct. We want to give in a respectful way. We don't want to donate a lot of money to an arms company. Right? We're not giving to people who produce pesticides. Right? But to really think carefully, where are we putting our material resources? And I think especially in Singapore, in the recent years, there's been all this investigation into charities and things. So to be quite careful to give in a way where we know our money is going to go where we want it to go, to use it for a good purpose. So, financial reports, annual reports of charities are up there. I think it's important for us to check up, where is our hard-earned money going, right? Is it really going to benefit others? And the other so that's generosity, ethical conduct. The third far-reaching attitude is fortitude. And that's what helps us when people don't appreciate what we give. That becomes an opportunity for us to say, okay, I've done my best, and the door is open, I don't have to get angry. It is hard for me to think of a specific example of this. Why? Because I am very challenged practicing this. For sure, I expect something in return. It's very interesting to watch, every time I try and give, and if the person doesn't appreciate it, I'm like, this is one of my big triggers that I still work on a lot. But to give with fortitude. I think that, actually I can think of an example, okay, it's not so bad. When I was teaching in a public high school here in Singapore, and the students are like, who's this person trying to tell me what to do with my life? To show up every day just because you care, to give, and to know how to give in a way that's skillful and that someone can receive. I think, these are all, that requires wisdom, which we'll get to. So giving with ethical conduct, fortitude, and joyous effort, to have a happy mind when we're giving, right? Again, not to regret what we've given, but to say, this is something I want to do for the long term. I know it benefits others, it benefits myself. If I know it's something beneficial, I just want to keep doing it. On the wisdom part, I think this is something I really had to think about. Because in my early years as a teacher, I was like with the, I don't know what you call it, the Messiah complex, for the lack of a better word, I'm going to come and rescue all these children. I watched this movie called Freedom Writer's Diary. I don't know if people saw that. It was about like a teacher who was in the inner city, and she bought books for the kids, and she was really changing their lives, and I was like, yes, I want to be a teacher like that. Because I had kids who were in gangs too and having difficulties at home. So after watching this movie, I went out with my salary and I bought books for all the kids. Yeah, like, yes, here I am, generous Miss Ruby, giving away books in class to all these students, especially too because there was one class that I really, really had such difficulty with. I would say they were in my enemy meditation. Think of enemy, these students. And I thought, okay, I'm a good Buddhist, I'm going to practice, I'm going to give these books to them, I'm going to turn my mind. And it did help. Yeah, I turned my mind, but one book for every child, right? What really gave me pause was when one day I was at assembly. Every child has to bring a storybook for assembly. And I noticed that for some of the kids, they were bringing the same book every day for almost 1 year. It was the book I had given them. And they were not reading it. And they just bought the same book so they wouldn't get punished. Better yet, I saw someone had half the book that I had given them. I was like, how come you have half the book? It was cut down the middle. He said, I share with my friend. I thought, wow. I was like, okay, generosity, well done for you. But I think that really made me think through, like, how do you want to give? Yeah, it's not just about going out there and spending money and giving these books to these kids. Yeah, it takes a lot more effort to teach people how to read or to value literature, for instance. Yeah. Same thing, also another how not to give story. I also had one student who was like on the verge of dropping out of school. Actually, she did eventually drop out. So when I learned about this, she was one of the best English students. And again, my Freedom Writer's Diary thing, everyone was writing their journals, and I would give you a present when you handed in the journal. The best part was that there was one class of students who were like, a free journal, good, we'll use it to take geography notes. And they never wrote back to me in the journal. I'm like, okay, so sad. But there was one class that started to write back, they started to share their lives. So I was learning about this girl and just the unbelievable difficulties she had. And once you get involved with young people, right, she wrote that she had cut herself 100 times on her thigh, and just a lot of distress and difficulty in the family. And so, I stopped. I didn't teach that girl for 1 year, and then soon after the next I heard that she was going to drop out of school. Why? Because her mother wanted her to work as a toilet cleaner together with her so that they could support the father who was having an affair. So I was like, what is happening, right? So my, must save the world complex comes up. I tracked down this girl, talked to her, like, why are you doing this? You cannot. I knew that she had a deep interest in learning makeup. So I thought, okay, I'll pay for you to go. Yeah, Miss Ruby is gonna save you. Yeah, I'll pay for you to go and finish your diploma in makeup or whatever. And I found out about Cosmoprof, I think. And then I brought her there, and she signed up, and I paid for it. And I even met her boyfriend who dropped out at primary 2 and didn't speak English. And when she thought she was pregnant, she called me. And just all this drama. And after she finished the course, but after that, she continued to call me for help. I'm like, how do I write a resume? Can you find me a job? Help. And I really had to think, like, can you do this for every student? What? And really, am I actually helping this person if I go out and do everything for them? Yeah, so I guess, this kind of, I guess you call it compassion without wisdom. Yeah, not having the skills to really see what would truly benefit someone else and what can you do sustainably in the very long run. Yeah. So I think that's very important, the practicing our generosity with wisdom. Knowing what we are able to give, knowing when to stop, knowing when and how to actually benefit someone for the very long term. Yeah, so, at the end of the day, if it's really just about creating that mind that wants to give, yeah, and it starts right here, giving a kind word to someone, giving a smile to someone, giving up your seat to someone. There are just so many opportunities to give if we look for it. And I think the most important thing is to protect that practice. And not just giving, like I said, blindly, with all good intentions, right? But if we don't protect that with also ethical conduct, fortitude, joyous effort, wisdom, it becomes very difficult, I think, to sustain our practice in the long run. So, I've talked for a while, and now I guess I'll open it up to see if people have any thoughts, responses, comments, questions. Yes?
You were talking about generosity, how about on the other hand, the sutras say about the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas the sutra mention about Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they are also practicing generosity. So in return, if we pray, will the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas give us wealth, all this, so that we can, for me, I wish I can retire and do practice full time. So is it possible I pray this way?
Oh, Buddha, yeah, please pay all my debts, buy me a car.
No, I just wish to get out of the rat race of the society and do my Dharma practice. So I pray for the wealth that Buddha can give me. Is it possible?
Is it possible? What do you think? Has anyone prayed for retirement and had it appear? Is that the kind of relationship we have with the Buddha?
Practice in Singapore, we need money to retire and then don't need to work and do the Dharma practice.
I see. Okay, so let me backtrack, and I'm not retired, by the way. FYI. So anyway, I think when we talk about it's quite beautiful, yeah, to think of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas constantly being generous to us, and that's true. Yeah, I mean, obviously the Buddha practiced for 3 countless great eons to benefit us. Yeah, it's not like he let that finish. Okay, farewell. The 3 countless great eons, making this incredible amount of merit to be able to constantly benefit sentient beings who are receptive. Yeah, so I think that's a big piece. The generosity, I see it anyway, as in terms of teachings. The Buddhas are constantly open to teaching us, giving us a wealth of teachings. And if our mind is open, we can tune in to that wealth. Yeah, the Buddha's enlightening influence, I would say, is always around us. There are always opportunities for us to practice, to transform our mind. The question is whether our minds are moving in that direction or open to that. Yeah, so that's how I see it, like wealth often as symbolic of the wealth of Dharma teachings that we can receive. Yeah. But 2, I think it's fair to pray and dedicate our merit to ripen in good conditions for our practice. Yeah, that's what I did for many, many years when I had the aspiration to ordain. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I said, okay, I really would like to ordain. May all this merit go in that direction. May I dedicate it for that purpose. Right? And then as things come along, conditions, because you're moving your mind in that direction, then you start to see the opportunities. Right? Oh, here's a monastery. Oh, here's a teacher I can study with. Yeah, so I think too, if you make a lot of sincere dedications and prayers, like, may I be able to practice sincerely, may I have the material resources I need to go on retreat. If that's your genuine motivation, right? Not, Buddha, when I have a nice car, then I will give back to the temple, right? But really, I'm having a tough time at work. May you help me find the right teachings to turn it into an opportunity for practice. I think once you move your mind in that direction, then the circumstances come about. Yeah, and I think, so it's a dependent arising. Yeah, it's not like from your side you just pray and then Buddha does all the work, right? The Buddha has already done the work. Yeah, 3 countless great eons, constantly there. So from our side, we're creating those mental habits, aspirations, habituating our mind to see the wealth of teachings around us. Yeah, to find ways to transform what you're doing every single day into an opportunity for practice, right? As opposed to when I get out, when I quit, when I retire, then I will practice. Trust me, other things will come about that will make it difficult, right? There's no ideal situation out there. Same, even after ordination. I have ordained. Very busy. There a lot of things to do also, right? You know, is Venerable sleeping? Yeah. So it's really about our state of mind, and what we're doing with it. But I like too that you brought up the other side of things. We have to be able to receive. To be open to receiving generosity. This is something that I only realized after I became a monastic. Wow, suddenly you're receiving kindness all the time. And there's a part of me that's like, either, I don't deserve it. I'm just a small nun. Or, don't. Like all this sort of nonsense that comes up. It's like, hey, people want to give, have a big heart, you receive, and you find a way to pay back that kindness. That's all it is. So it's quite interesting to see if you have difficulty receiving also, to see all the reasons we give. I'm not good enough. If I receive, I have to give something back. All just the self-centered mind talking nonsense. Other questions, comments? Yes?
Venerable, good evening. Previously, I used to go to Dharma centers to do group practice. Then somehow or other, maybe due to my past karma, often things would sour between me and my Dharma brothers and sisters. So what I do now is I do my own practice at home, and even that got obstacle also. My neighbors would create a lot of noise, a lot of screaming, Then I'm the type of person that needs a quiet environment to practice. So go outside, group practice also got problem, individual practice also got problem. So how do you suggest I go about my own practice?
Are you still practicing?
Yeah, I'm still practicing. Just that I have to wake up in the middle of the night to practice, just to get away from all the noise.
Wow. Well, like you just said, right? You can think of it as past karma ripening. Right? That's one very helpful way, I think, whenever we encounter any difficulty, to pause and say, maybe I created the cause in the past to be experiencing this now. Maybe someone was meditating and I created difficulties for them. Maybe I did things that were not harmonious, and okay, I'm experiencing the result. I don't have to feel guilty or bad, but it's getting purified. And I can transform my mind. So now you're not stopping your practice. Correct? You're saying, wow, this is ripening and I'm going to persevere. Then you're really turning things around, You're not creating the causes for more difficulty in practice anymore. You're saying, I'm going to persevere despite these difficulties. Your mind's moving in a new direction and creating a new habit. I think that's really, really positive, to turn it that way. That is the practice. Because the other thing is this, are we ever going to find the perfect Dharma center where everybody loves me, where I come and everybody's like, hello, you're my best friend, kiss, kiss, smile, smile, whatever it is we're looking for, right? Or, we're going to do all these beneficial projects for all sentient beings with zero conflict. We're all going to have the same idea. We're all going to respect our teacher's wishes and carry them out smoothly. I mean, has anyone actually experienced that as people who are in the Dharma? Right, at the Abbey, we often say a prayer before we start our day to offer service. And there's a really important line in there. It starts with, I'm grateful for the opportunity to offer service to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. While working with others, differences in ideas and opinions will arise. These are natural and are a source of creative exchange. Our minds don't need to make them into conflicts. We say this every day, twice a day. For a reason, right? In the Sangha, you live together. Why you do this like that? Right? It's just that's how we are, sentient beings, overcome by afflictions and karma. When we get together, we're trying to do something virtuous and all our stuff comes up as well. But we don't give up, right? We stick to our good motivation. And two, I think there's no such thing as a perfect retreat environment. Right? Even when you come to the Abbey, it's really quite amazing. You'll come, and you think it's really very quiet. We're not near a road at all, you can't hear any cars. And there you are in retreat. And oh my goodness, the person next to you clicking the mala so loudly. So loud. Yeah, or my favorite one was someone wore like some kind of aluminum pantsuit for the retreat that she would walk in late, very noisy. There I am trying to cultivate love and compassion. And there's this auntie sitting behind me with the noisy pantsuit, zip, unzip, like, oh my goodness, rustling through the session. I'm like, because of you, I cannot benefit sentient beings. Yeah, you really get to see that. Two, someone complained about people breathing. Yeah, that was my favorite one. So and so sitting behind me breathe very loudly. What? You're gonna tell the person not to breathe, is it? I mean, so trust me, this one comes up all the time. It is the first and biggest hindrance in retreat. Yeah, noise that other people are making to disturb my pure practice. So you really get to see what is the problem there or in my own mind. Yeah. Yeah, the other one is whether the window should be open, which also another epic battle. Yeah, one person gets up, open the window, too hot. One more person gets up, too cold. Open, close. Everybody else is like, we're trying to do our session. So, the retreat environment is never going to be perfect. Yeah, I wanted to share too quite quickly. There was, what keeps us going in retreat all the time is that we often, people often correspond with inmates during retreat. Yeah, and then people will write to the inmates about the practice that they're doing as well. So while we're doing our 3-month winter retreat, about 200 or more inmates are doing it. And I think one retreat, an inmate wrote about the kind of situation he was in. He was practicing in a dormitory of maybe 40 or more people, screaming, crying. He was sitting on the top bunk bed in front of a bare light bulb, trying to do his practice. And he said, every day I do my practice and I'm so happy for this opportunity. Nobody complained after that. Yeah, because you see like, wow, people, I think, the work that Venerable does with inmates really inspires us. Yeah, whenever people share those letters in retreat, we see, we're having it easy. Yeah, the loud mala is not a problem. Yeah. Yes, there's a question behind.
Hi, Venerable.
Hello.
Yeah, actually, I have a lot of questions. Yeah.
Okay.
By the
Let's
way,
start with one.
by the way, I'm the one who met you and Venerable to run children at the airport.
Oh my goodness,
Yes,
hello.
yes, yes.
Hi, you made it.
Yes, I made
Hooray.
it. I almost forgot, and then I had to change my work schedule actually.
Oh, I'm so sorry you're not hearing from Venerable Children directly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
thank you for coming.
Yeah, so I came today.
This was a kind person that we were at the airport having a peaceful dinner and who appears and goes, hello, Venerable Children. No, but it was quite wonderful. And then, of course, we talked about the talk, and I'm very glad you're here. Yes, sorry,
I
your
was
question.
like, I could sit down with her for 4 hours to talk, I didn't have the time, yeah. But just, like, I got some questions here also, but I just picked the important ones. Like, can everyone obtain realization, in a sense, like, can depressed people obtain realization, people with mental health illness obtain, cause like sometimes, there are people with depression who find it really, really hard to get on with life and everything. So, can you speak more about this phenomenon of depression and mental illnesses, and like how they can obtain realization through practice as well?
Okay, so we'll start with the first question. Yeah, can people with mental illnesses or depression obtain realizations? But what do you mean by realizations?
Like what you've been talking about, like practice, like as in what Buddha said, like what lay people who practice the Dharma, in order to become generous, to have love and compassion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, as Buddhists, we think about how every single sentient being has the Buddha potential. And that's a big part of why we take a precept not to harm any sentient being. Because when you look at how our mental continuum will continue for countless lifetimes to come, right? All of us have this incredible potential to train our minds and become fully awakened. It doesn't stop with just one life. Yeah, so that's the way we're expanding our minds to think. So, you know, when you see cockroaches or creatures, animals, that's why we have the practice of saying mantra to them, to try and plant good imprints in the mind of an animal. Sometimes at the Abbey, all the cats attend the teachings. They have full attendance. So Venerable is teaching and they get all these imprints of the Dharma. When we see animals on the road, we chant and just try and make a good connection, right, with the sound and of syllables of compassion and wisdom. So, you know, if we can do that for animals, if we believe that coming into the contact with the Dharma in some way makes a positive imprint on the mind, even if the animal is totally obscured by ignorance, that one day the seeds in this mind stream are going to ripen, then for sure a human being with the faculty to think, intelligence, a good heart, is definitely able to practice the Dharma. Regardless of whatever people have said, have diagnosed about mental illness. So that's one aspect. And you know, my thoughts on mental illness, I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't advise on that. But I think too, we live in an interesting time where we pathologize. You know, we've turned all these we've defined all these mental states that we call illnesses, right? You call it an illness, you can see a doctor for it, and then you're given drugs for it, or that's one solution that's prescribed, right? You can buy and take drugs, and they do have an effect on the mind. So we live in a time where the mind is studied and viewed in this way. Whether or not that's always the best way to deal with a mental problem, I don't know. You know, it really depends on the person. I do have friends who suffered from clinical depression for a long time. I will say that taking the medication helps. I remember I had a student with clinical depression who was really having a very hard time, and the moment he saw a psychiatrist and started taking medication, it was so helpful for his mind. But again, that's not the single condition. Medication is one part of it. He changed his school environment. He was in a much more supportive school environment. So all these things came into play. So I guess I say I think, you know, we have to have a balance, because I think a lot of times once you label someone mentally ill or depressed, it's like it becomes their identity, right? And I think that becomes a bit dangerous. You're like, oh, I'm a depressed person. I'm never going to change. It's like that. Or I can't ever think differently. Or we look at people that way, oh, they're depressed, so, you know, we can't give them that job. The mind changes. Mind has incredible potential to transform and change. So I think if we turn that label of mental illness into something that stigmatizes people, or even stigmatizes ourselves, like we think, oh, I'm never going to change the way I think, then it becomes a handicap. It's not helpful anymore. So I don't know, those are my thoughts. Yes?
Yeah, it's because I have depression I suffered for many years. Sometimes when I get my depression, right, when it comes, right, it just comes in moments of the day, you know, it just comes. I find that meditation helps. Like today in the afternoon, I meditated for 15 minutes, and then I felt peace. But it doesn't last. The effects doesn't seem to last. I just want to ask you, like, in terms of time frame, right, how long will it take of practice before we can realize and notice some differences based on your own experiences? Like, how long does it take to practice, you know, before we can realize that, hey, I've grown, I've become more loving, more compassionate?
So you want the Excel spreadsheet, is it? Of like, I can lay out for you, 20 hours meditation, like that. Okay, just kidding. How long does it take? You know, I mean, when you think about your mind...
Is growth a process, a gradual process? Is transformation growth a gradual process? Or does it happen in leaps? You know, like, is it a gradual process whereby you wake up one day and you realize that, hey, I reached this far, you know? Or does it happen? How does it really happen? That's my question. That's what I'm curious about.
Okay. I'll try and see what I can share from my experience. I will say that from my experience, it's gradual for sure. Everyone's nodding on that, right? Like, it would be nice to like the teacher said something, and then in the moment I'm like, yes, you know. But of course, all that comes from having built past causes and conditions. And from my side, I did not grow up Buddhist. I was in a very high achieving kind of environment and very stressed out. And the first time I meditated, I couldn't sit for more than 3 minutes. I would do yoga, and then at the end they say Om and sit, right? And I would fall asleep. Like zero focus. And then I started to sit with a Zen meditation group, and then I would sit 5 minutes a day. Huge challenge, I tell you. It was like the most difficult 5 minutes. Like to sit and focus on my breath, like what? No, but I kept going because I saw that it made me calmer, like you said, just those 5 minutes in a day. Very strange. I was like, what's happening to my mind? I can actually pause and notice before I say something so I don't say things I regret. I'm able to feel less stressed. I remember I felt quite sick in college for one period, and I just kept meditating and sending myself loving kindness, and I could be calm. So, so like in your own practice, right, little steps like that give us faith, not blind faith, but saying, wow, when I sit and just calm my mind, it's a lot clearer. Just 5 minutes changes my whole day. Yeah, and of course, we've had beginningless lifetimes. Sitting for 5 minutes now is not going to reverse all the imprints or whatever that we've put in our mind stream, but hey, we're moving in a different direction, yeah, bit by bit. Yeah. So yeah, 5 minutes, and it took me maybe, I don't know, quite a few years before I got up to 20 minutes. And then just when I ordained 1 hour, oh my goodness, at the Abbey sometimes we sit for 1 hour, 15 minutes. Like what is happening with my mind in that time? To really watch that. So yeah, it's a process, very gradual, but every drop counts in filling the bucket. I'm reminded of a story that I been thinking about this Indian man named Dashrath Manji. I'm sorry if I get the name wrong, but he was a poor laborer living in Bihar, and then his wife had to cross the hills to bring him lunch every day, and then she slipped one day and fell and injured herself. And then she couldn't get to the hospital because this huge hill was in between her and the hospital. And so she died. Yeah. And so that night after the wife passed away, he made a resolution that this is just unacceptable. He was going to do something to make a difference. He sold part of his property and he bought a hammer and a chisel. And he went to this mountain every day after work and chipped away at the mountain. Yeah, the whole village thought he was crazy, right? So he kept chipping every day after work. How long do you think he chipped for? 23 years. Yeah, 23 years, every day after work, he chipped and chipped and chipped. And after 23 years, he had chipped a road through the mountain. The government paved the road. And he reduced the amount of travel time to the hospital from 55 kilometers to 15. Yeah, suddenly his whole village had access to the hospital. Yeah, and I was just amazed to read this story, what one man's determination and his sincere motivation to benefit his village. Yeah, it wasn't like, his wife died and he got angry and just sank into his own misery and decided, the world's unfair, I hate the world, I can't do anything. He said, no, I'm gonna make a difference in whatever way I can, the way I know how, and he had tremendous fortitude, and he changed the lives of his whole village. So I think we can think of our practice in that way. Yeah? Every drop counts. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, that lady there and this gentleman in front later.
Good evening. I've got a friend I just found out recently that I think every Saturday he will go to his with his Dharma center and buy, say, fish or birds and then set them free, and he call it as a practice. Probably due to my ignorance, the way I see it is that because when you buy animals for selling, so you create the demand. Yes, you set them free as a good intention, but then people can catch more because they know that people buy and sell them, right? So I'm not sure in terms like is that like the correct way to, when you want to set life free and create good merits, is that a good way to go about it?
Yeah, this is definitely a topic of discussion in the Buddhist community, I would think. Yeah, fundamentally the motivation is very good. Yeah, that we are wanting to protect life, to liberate it. And often people are doing this sometimes for family members who are ill, right, or for someone's long life. There's a lot of distress, and this is one way that helps calm their mind. They feel that they're creating merit and it's being dedicated to someone's good health and long life. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of faith involved there. But I do think too that we have to practice our generosity with wisdom, discriminating wisdom. So like you said, when we think about what is the system we are contributing to? And not just with animal liberation, but sometimes with the way different charities use their funds. It's like when we buy animals for this purpose, then does it create a market for that? And my personal concern is sometimes when we release the animal without proper knowledge of ecosystems and where they're being released, does it actually harm the environment? And that I don't know. Because you're taking this animal from a totally alien environment, you put it in the park, or you put it in the sea. It may not survive. It may harm the environment. It may become an invasive species, right? We really don't know. So now that we have this scientific wisdom, and we have this knowledge, I think we can bring that to bear when we're practicing. Venerable has quite a nice article on her website about this, about all the ways we can put this good motivation into practice. If our intention is to save life, we can stop eating meat for one day, for a week. We can encourage other people not to eat meat. Someone just told us this really nice story of how, it was Chunfa, who's one of the volunteers here, who was talking about how there was a young student who was terminally ill or had some kind of very life-threatening disease, and his classmates, one of them told the whole class, hey, let's all go vegetarian for our friend. Let's give up the practice of eating meat and dedicate all the merit to our friend's good health and long life. And miraculously, the person recovered. And all of them became so close because they were united by this common vision to protect life in order to benefit their friend. So I think those are some alternatives. As long as we stay true to our good motivation, then we'll find a way to put it into practice.
Thank you.
Good evening, Venerable. Is the mic on?
Huh?
Is the mic on?
Yes, it is.
So there's two questions I want to ask. Like during the practice, very, very beginning stage, like we have to give the open heart to others, but then knowing our very own nature, let's say it was very destructive, then can we also request to say that we also need empathy? That's the first question. And the second question is that, this one was mentioned by my father. He said that between my children and a mosquito, I will kill mosquitoes to ensure my children's safety. And I also realized that I don't know whether mosquitoes are very easy to. For those creatures that have a very destructive nature, I say, 这我应该就是这样的啦. Like this is how I should be. Like there are also a lot of stories, they say last time, don't know, a frog went on a crocodile and the crocodile ate him, and they say 为什么把我吃掉? And they say because that's my nature. So all of this, how to spread the compassion in it.
Okay, so the first question was about if you're trying to give with an open heart, but your own afflictions come up. I have a bit of struggle with this word nature, especially when we talk about people, because for me then it sounds like it's like innate, like I was born with it and I can't change. So because we always the Buddha taught that our afflictions are not in the nature of the mind. The mind itself is clear and pure, like the sky, right? Our afflictions arise temporarily, they cloud the sky, but they pass away. So I wouldn't say I'm destructive by nature. It's like, okay, it might be something I'm habituated to, an affliction that has come up many times, but it's not who I am. It's something I can let go of and release. And I think that's already one way of giving empathy to yourself. I know sometimes we want empathy from someone else, right? I just smacked you. Will you give me some empathy for my destructive behavior? Maybe a bit difficult, right? I mean, just think about that, right? When we're being destructive and then we ask for empathy from someone else, I don't know, can be quite difficult, right? You're asking for a lot from someone else. But what I found helpful is to start with myself. And when I do something destructive, when I do something against my values, really I beat myself up the most. I don't know about you, because I've let myself down in some way, and I can get really hard with myself, So at that moment I have to stop and say, okay, I made a mistake. I'm a sentient being, overcome by afflictions. I behaved in a way that I really am not proud of. I can purify, I can do something to make amends. You know, I don't have to say, I'm such a bad person and I'll never change. Yeah, so I found in my own practice that the empathy has to start with myself. Me giving myself empathy in those moments when I'm overwhelmed by afflictions and doing things that I'm really not happy about. And then to do a purification practice and to try and repair the situation when I realize what I've done. Yeah, then maybe I think it's possible to seek empathy from the other person. But if we've harmed someone, I think it can be difficult. Yeah. And likewise for animals too, I think of course we can have a lot of compassion. Again, I don't think it's in the nature of the animal's mind, right? It's again, you've habituated yourself so much. Imagine if you spend your whole life just trying to get ahead and you know, only looking out for your own benefit and survival and always trying to get food and get things. And I mean, that's really what animals do, right? You are killing another animal to survive. Yeah, at all costs, do it for my own survival. I mean, we live like that as people. You know, what more? You habituate yourself to this state of mind. It will condition the kind of body you take and the environment you live in. Yeah, so I think when we think about how rebirth happens, we can have a lot of compassion for animals. Right? They don't have the ability to think and create virtue from their side. Right? The habituation is so strong that to survive you need to kill. And then from our side, to make sure we do our best not to create those causes. Yeah.
Oh, it's like I got a concern that because suddenly it just comes and bites you, then you cannot be like, then it continues to bite.
Oh, the
you,
mosquito, yes you can, why not? Can you know, I always think about how mosquitoes, so poor thing, you know, you're just trying to get food. And all these people are trying to kill you, or you're eating. That's all the mosquito wants, right? He's just trying to get fed, right? Honestly, that's what he wants, and he has to risk life and limb to get a little bit of nutrition. I don't know, that's how I think about mosquitoes. And I often think about Ajahn Brahm's story about how in the forest, all the monks would sit there and they're just offering up their practice and themselves to all these mosquitoes. You can think, may you please benefit from my Dharma practice. Right, hey, he's taking your blood. Very close relationship, no? Might be your child in the next life, right? May you benefit. It's just a small bite. You're not going to die. Right? Much better than, I mean, right? And then what kind of relationship do you have with this being? And what kind of relationship will they have with you in the future? Right? So yeah, you can practice giving fearlessness to mosquitoes. Okay, is there a final question perhaps? Yes, over there.
Okay, thanks. Just before we go on, just like to offer a word of support for our brother here who has depression still. Because I had depression too for quite a while, and actually it's the emotions do get better of me sometimes. But I meditate as well, and it won't always be peaceful. But I hope that we continue practice. The Triple Gems blessing will be with you. And the question I have, okay, it's related to that. The flux of emotions, because I find that emotions always change and I'm always changing. So in that case, how can I give in a sustained manner to build stable relationships? Because when I feel good, when I feel really high, I give more. I'm more compassionate. I give out more warmth. But when I'm not feeling that good, I become a bit colder. I still want to give, but I can't direct out anymore, and it just causes problems in relationships. So I'm not sure whether you have any kind of comment or any of you would have any kind of motivation you can share on that. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I just want to also thank you for giving encouragement, right, to someone else because you empathize with their situation. That's really quite beautiful. And I think in relation to your question, yeah, I mean, that's how our mind works, right? Oh, I feel good. Yay, you can have everything you want. I'm feeling bad. No, go away, right? I mean, that's why as children, you learn you can only ask things from your parents when they're in a good mood, right? We all learn how to strategize. Daddy, it's after payday we can ask them. This is the right time. Yeah. So I think it's really excellent to even notice that for a start. Like, wow, all these fluctuations in emotion, they actually condition my practice of virtue. And then because you're asking this question, you're saying, I don't want that. I want to do something different. Yeah, I don't want to be like swept away by my afflictions and have that affect how I treat others and my own practice of kindness. And I think there, the one thing that helps, it's going to be a boring answer, is practice. Yeah, a daily practice. And two, you find just, it's like to wait until you're angry to practice the antidote, a bit late, right? It's like you've already become obese and have kidney failure or whatever, and then you decide, maybe I should start running. Like way too late. Yeah, you gotta start early. I see someone's like saying, you see, you hear that? You must take the advice yourself also. Yeah, right? Like way before you get to the point of like totally swept away, your kidneys are not functioning properly. The Dharma really is about preventative care, I think, for our minds. Yeah, and that's what our daily practice is about. Every day you can check up. Okay, did I live according to my motivation today? Was I generous genuinely to benefit others or not? Yeah, and then that's what we're doing in our meditation. We're checking up. And again, not to beat ourselves up, but just to be honest with ourselves, like, wow, that's where I am right now. Gee, that's what I have to work on. Okay, I can go for teachings, I can talk to my teacher. If I've done something that I'm really upset with myself about, again, do purification, let it go, and just to keep putting one foot in front of the next one. And to have confidence, right, we're building a new pathway, towards more kindness and compassion, and that it's going to come from a more and more genuine motivation the more we practice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, last.
One
really
last one.
last. Yes.
Would you say that because I find that I'm rather weak, like not much character. Would you say that character growth is synonymous with spiritual growth? Would you say that?
I guess so, yeah. And Venerable often talks about that, it's quite interesting. I can't remember the context of this now, but His Holiness the Dalai Lama was talking about how important it is for all monasteries to be centers of learning. And I think in response to that, Venerable Children gave a talk about how true education is about character development. It's really about character and spirit. What else is spiritual development, right? When we talk about the Buddha's enlightened mind, he has developed all positive qualities completely and removed all afflictions completely. Right, so that's what we're striving to do, to develop all our positive qualities to their fullest potential. And it's really amazing to think about how we have limitless positive potential. I don't know, that blows my mind. That's something good to wake up and think about, right? That we have minds that are able to give kindness infinitely. We have that ability. Now it might be limited sometimes by our other afflictions and things, but we have that ability to develop our mind that way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Last question. No.
To anybody who has suffered from depression before, because I suffered, 5 years ago, I went to Abbey for a retreat, and just coincident, I went through a book written by Venerable Children. It's a Lamrim meditation. That book actually accompanied me because it got a rendition, which is that Venerable will talk, pause, and let you actually reflect. That Lamrim meditation actually brought me back to myself, which is that I'm no longer depressed. I think it's a very good book. If you're willing to share, just read that book. Meditate on yourself, because not very often that Venerable or teachers will be around you. So you have to depend on yourself.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah, it seems like it's interesting, all these questions that arose around depression. Thank you for even opening that door, and for people who are courageous enough to share what you've been through. Thank you very much. Often I think depression comes about, it's another mental affliction, right? If we put our focus in the wrong place, that's where our mind goes, but we always have the power to shift it. And every day just thinking about the kindness of others, thinking about what we've received, all the goodness around us, if we keep habituating our mind to that, I think that opens the mind up. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for being here on this New Year's and for sharing this time with us together. So we'll dedicate the merit. If people who know the Abbey dedication can chant along. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
悲大愿力，迷路之归是真理。